The great name of Allah who is most merciful and most beneficial. Assalamu alaikum. I am Adil Abdo from MA English batch 2K20 roll number 3. As this presentation is given to us by Ma'am Erum Kalhoro from the history. So this is my first topic from history. Renaissance movement. The Renaissance, which began in northern Italy in the 15th centuries. Some scholars claim an earlier that was a rebirth of learning and return to the literature and humanities studies of the ancient world, humans itself, the intellectual movement of the Renaissance. Renaissance was inspired by the ancient Greek focus on the beauty of the human. On the beauty of the human body, the church had long taught that the human body was the source of evil. The term Renaissance itself was coined by French 19th century historians who when reviewing the Marlowe's literary, artistic and philosophic achievements of the 15th, 16th centuries, especially in Italy, viewed the area literary as a rebirth of civilization. The idea of renewed appreciation of the classical civilization of the past was an important break from the Christian church, which had always looked with disdain, to put it mildly, upon the pagan past of ancient Greeks and Rome. When scholars approach the study of the Renaissance, human is the most common term that is usually applied to the intellectual movement. Applied to the intellectual movement associated with the area, and it is Francis O. Partridge, who is usually considered the father of humanism. Humanists searched the literature of ancient Greece and Rome for answers about beauty, the meaning of life, and the value of the individual. This was a during undertaking because that literature had been produced by pagans who were not in good favor with the Christian church. The novelty was that the humanists could not find that answers they sought in the countries of Christian literature, so they went back to the pre-Christian countries. This profoundly altered Western attitude. Second topic is Spencer. Spencer was born circa 1552 and educated in London. At the Merchant Taylor's School, he went to Ireland in the 50s 70s during the Elizabeth's reconquest of the country to acquire land and wealth. From 1579 to 1580, he served with the English forces during the second of the Demon's rebellions, and afterwards was awarded land in court that had been confiscated from the rebels. In the Munster plantation, among his acquaintances in the area was Salvatore Relic, who, like Spencer, had been granted land in Munster. Edmund Spencer, through his poetry, hoped to achieve a secure place at court, but partly as a result of foolishly negotiating, Lord Burghley received only a pension in 1591 in recognition of his efforts. For most of his life, he lived in Ireland, bitter towards not only the English court but to the Irish as well, whose culture Spencer disliked. In the early 1590s, he wrote a prose pamphlet titled A View on the Present State Ireland, although it was not published in Spencer's lifetime due to its improvement or a nature. This piece became quite famous after its publication in the mid 17th century. The pamphlet argued that Ireland would never be totally pacific until its indigenous language and customs had been destroyed by violence if necessary. He recommended using scorched earth tactics such as he had been used in Demont rebellions to create famine. Although it has been highly regarded as a polemical piece of prose and valued as a historical source on 16th century Ireland, the geographical of the essays is now generally recognized. He also utilized Ireland's Celts traditions for poetic source material. Spencer was driven from his home by Irish rebels during the Nine Years' War in 1589. He died in 1599. Poetry, the first poem to earn Spencer notability, was collection of ecologies called the Shepherd's Calendar, written from the point of view various shepherds thought the year month of the year. The poem is an allegory, symbolizes the state of humanity, the diversity of forms and meters ranging from interactual syllabic to purely externally and including such as the periods as the sexta in August gave Spencer's contemporaries a clue the range of its power and won him paradise in his day. The Ferrier is his major contribution to English poetry. That the poem written in the epic form is a long dance allegory of Christians' virtues into England's mythology of King Arthur. Spencer intended to complete 12 books of the poem but managed only 6 before his death. The work remains the longest epic poem in the English language, inspiring writers from John Milton and John Keats through James Joyce and Erum. Poets found he devised a verse form for the Ferrier Queen that has come to be known as the Spencerian stanza, which has since been applied in poetry by such disparate poets as William Wordsworth, John Keats, Lord Byron, and Alfred Lord Tennyson. The language of his poetry is purposely archaic. It reminds readers of earlier works such as the contemporary tales of Geoffrey Chaucer, whom in Spencer greatly admired. Spencer Epitomolix is the most admired of its types in the English language. It was written for his wedding to his young bride Elizabeth Boyle, and it represents the first widely popular sonnet sequence written in the English language. The sequence would go on to inspire Shakespeare's famous sequence of sonnets several years later. The virtual six books of the Fairy Queen, Book Holiness, Book 2, Temperance, Book 3, Chastity, Book 4, Book 4, Friendship, Book 5, Justice, Book 6, Courtesy. In addition of these six virtues, the later of reliefs suggests the author represents the virtues of magnificence, which, according to Aristotle and the rest, the perfection of all the rest, and contains in it them all, and that the Fairy Queen herself represents a glory, hence her name. Gloriana, using the latter as a guide to the poem, the relative absence of author and glorians from the plot is surprising, although they are both in a way interrelated to the structure of Book 1. They continue to fade in importance as the poem progresses, and Spencer's acute sense of irony in giving more and more free region. This is my third topic, drama. Drama is an English literature source. The origin of the drama is the deep rooted in the religious predispositions of mankind. Same is the case not only with English drama but with dramas of other nations as well. The ancient Greek and Roman dramas were mostly concerned with religious ceremonial of people. It was the religious elements that resulted in the development of drama, as most of the Bible was written into Latin. Common people could not understand its meanings. That's why the clergy tried to find out some new method of teaching and expounding the teachings of Bible to the common people. For this purpose, they developed a new method where then the stories of the gospel were explained through the living pictures. The performance acted at the story in dumb show. What is drama? Drama is a type of literature telling a story which is intended to be performed by to an audience on the stage. Generally, while drama is the printed text of a play, the word theatre often refers to the actual production of the next text on the stage. Theatre thus involves action taking place on the stage, on the costumes, the atmosphere, and so on. Masters and Merkel plays. In the next stage, the actors spoke as well as acted their parts. Special plays were written by the clerks at facts in the later the working in French. These early plays were known as maesters or Merkels. The very word maestry show its lexical origin, since the words comes from the French maestry derived from mysteries, because the clergy, the mysteries or mystery selections that part in these plays. Instruments for any kind of religion play, but strictly speaking, the term mystery is applied to the stories taken from the scripts narrative, while miracles are plays dealing with incident in the living of saints and martyrs. So now my fourth topic is Shakespeare. Biography of Shakespeare. Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright, and actor. He was born on 26 April 1564 in Stratford upon Avon. His father was a successful local businessman, and his mother was the daughter of landowner. Shakespeare is widely registered as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and nicknamed the Bard of Avon. He wrote about 38 plays, 154 sonnets, 2 long narrative poems, and a few other verses, of which the authorship of some is uncertain. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those who any other playwright. Marriage and career. Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway at the age of 18. She was 8 years older than him. They had 3 children, Susanna and twins Hamlet and Judith. After his marriage, information about his life became very rare, but he is thought to have spent most of his time in London writing and performing in his plays. Between 1585 and 1592, he began a successful career in London as an actor, writer, and part owner of a playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Man, later known as the King of Men. Retirement and death around 1613 at the age of 49. He retired to Stratford, where he died 3 years later. Few records of Shakespeare's private life survive. He died on 23 April 1616. At the age of 52, he died within a month of singing his will. A document which he begins by describing himself as being in perfect health in his will. Shakespeare left the bulk of his large estate to his elder daughter Susanna. His work. Shakespeare produced most of his known work between 1589 and 1613. His early plays were mainly comedies and histories, and these works remain regarded as some of the best work produced in these genres. He then wrote mainly tragedies until about 1608, including Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. Considered some of the finest work in the English language. In his last phase, he wrote tragicomedies, also known as romances, and collaborated with other playwrights. Shakespeare's plays remain highly popular today and are continually studied, performed, and interpreted in diverse culture and political contexts throughout the world.